Good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhurbhavasvaha Tatsavitrvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Astoma Sadgamya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya मृत्योर्मामृतं गम्य ओम सहनावतु सहना भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहे तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहे ओम शांति 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 ओम. So Yog Darshan, second chapter, Sadhana Pad. And in the very first verse, we learned about Kriya Yoga, Tapaswadhyaya Ishwar Pranidhan. Then after that, he's telling us that Kriya Yoga, if we practice, all the obstacles, the kleshas, they can be weakened and ultimately removed on this path. Then in the verse number 3, he listed those kleshas for us. Avidya, Asmita, Rag, Dvesh, Abhinivesh. So these 5, and I'm sure you have memorized them by now. So avidya, lack of knowledge, limited knowledge. Asmita, I amness, the limited sense of being. Rag is the attachment, dvesh is the aversion, and abhinivesh. Abhinivesh is a fear of death, actually. Abhinivesh, in simple terms, that's what it means. Then we started our verse number 4, where Rishi Patanjali is saying that regardless of whether they are dormant, feeble, disjointed, or active. And who are they? Asmita, Rag, Dvesh, Abhinivesh. These 4. They live in the deep soil of avidya. Okay, so the ground for all of them is avidya, the ignorance or the lack of knowledge. So that's why it's so important to cultivate this knowledge. With the help of the knowledge, we get rid of these also. But there are 4 terms over here. Parsupt, Tanu, Vichin, and Udarana. So today we are going to go through these 4. Let's look at Parsupt. We can always understand with the help of this analogy of the seeds. Seeds sitting in a silo may be capable of germination, but the capacity of them remains dormant due to the lack of moisture and light. This is also the case with the seeds of ego, attachment, desire, and fear. Asmita, Rag, Dvesh, Abhinivesh. While held in a sterile silo, these seeds remain dormant, but they can become active only when they are taken out of the silo and planted in fully prepared soil. So as yoga sadhaks, what are we supposed to do? We do have some seeds, and those seeds, they come in our sight during our meditation. We are supposed to roast them so they never germinate. They are dormant right now. There are a lot of seeds which are dormant in our chitta, the deeper recesses of our mind. So we are supposed to roast them. Jivan Mukta people, The people who are living over here in a body, their seeds have been roasted with the help of the sadhana. Okay, so that's why they are called Jivan Mukta. They are living just like us. They have bodies like us, and the bodies function like us also, but the seeds have been roasted. So these are the yogis who have achieved Vivek Khyati, intuitive knowledge. Intuitive knowledge which is characterized by clear understanding. Those are the Jivan Mukta people. And with the help of our sadhana, we are supposed to reach there. Okay, roast these seeds. And the second one, he said, Tanu, weak. It's almost like a seeds of afflictions. They are stored in the dark chamber of avidya. They are somewhat awakened. They are also active. But they are not strong enough to grow successfully because they are weak. Or you can say that they are low quality seeds. So we have those kind of seeds also inside us. And these seeds are in the form of vasanas. Even when the conditions for germination are right, they grow slowly, but they die when the conditions are slightly adverse. For example, some teenagers, they use drugs only under extreme peer pressure and quit as soon as the pressure is removed. So those seeds of drinking or doing something wrong is there, but it's weak. It can be removed. But there are some seeds of afflictions which are constantly disrupted by the rise of other afflictions. And that is called vichin, or frequently interrupted. For example, desire for sensual pleasures, or even revenge, or compassion. So they could be positive or negative. It could be cruelty. All these seeds, they are coexisting in our mind field. But during the moment a person is attracted to another person, the whole mind is occupied by that kind of affliction. One of those. Other afflictions, such as anger, can be subdued. It is there, but it can be subdued. Later, the affliction of anger at the same person may overtake him, disrupting his attraction. So this is the example of a disjointed, short-lived afflictions. It could be even to do something good for somebody, but it can be just washed away very quickly before we do any karma. So that's why I said it could be positive or negative. But with efforts, a vigilant person can strengthen a relatively positive affliction. So as yoga abhyasis, this is what we need to do. Pay attention to the positive, disjointed sanskars, and weakening the more destructive ones And eventually we can attain freedom from afflictions of this nature altogether. See, this is the reflection we need to do. And that's why meditation helps us. Knowledge helps us. And finally, the fourth one, when he says Udara Nam, these are powerful, fully active afflictions. The seeds of such afflictions are robust. And due to carelessness, we create conditions conducive to their germination. And we see the growth is vigorous. Once they begin to bear fruit, they demand that the next generation of seeds be sown in a much bigger field. At this stage, the process is almost unstoppable. For example, some of us have the seed of self-identity as a mother or a father. When fully active, it is so strong that it swallows all other identities. And it even causes us to suffer from complexes. It even defines our existence, dictates our behavior, forces us to live inside the fortress of our self-importance. And any threat to this self-identity makes us fearful, defensive, and angry. And once it has been fully set in motion, we become so absorbed in this affliction, we can no longer see it because we have become it. According to the yogic philosophy, it is a disease. Udara Nam, that we don't see anything other than this affliction. We identify with it. Okay, so for us to remember over here is that these four stages, they belong to all these four afflictions. Okay. And the soil is the avidya, the ignorance. But then asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh, they all of them. And then sometimes maybe asmita is at a different level and attachment could be different to different thing. There could be a crisscrossing of all this too. Now in next verse, Rishi Patanjali is giving us a definition of what avidya is. Because it's very important for us to know this soil where the others live, avidya. Anitye, ashuchi, dukh, anatmasu, nitye, shuchi, sukh, atamkhyati, avidya. Anitya, non-eternal, ever-changing, anitya, or you can call it a mortal. Ashuchi, not clean. See, shuchi means clean, ashuchi means not clean, not pure. Dukh, suffering, misery, pain. Anatmasu, non-self. Nitya, eternal, everlasting, immortal. Shuchi, pure. Sukh, happiness, bliss. Atma khyati, Atma is the soul, consciousness. Khyati means realization. So experience or feeling of Atma. Avidya, distorted knowledge or ignorance. So making short-lived objects, impurity, suffering, and lack of self-awareness for eternity, purity, happiness, and awareness of oneself, respectively, is avidya. So this is the anatomy of avidya, ignorance. So you got to just remember respectively word. So that means the short-lived objects, we think that is it, they are eternity. Something impure, we think that is pure. We find happiness in suffering. And instead of looking towards the Atma, we look at the Anatma. So 4, remember these, corresponding the other 4. So nature and dynamics of avidya is very important for a yoga student to understand. Most of the religions, they talk about the sin. But in the yogic philosophy, we talk more about avidya. Because God is all-pervading, omnipresent, omnipotent. We even talk about and sing the glory of God like a brilliance outshines billions of stars and suns. But still the darkness of the sin continues to envelop. So the same way avidya, this ignorance, holds a powerful grip on us. We are part of God. We are the ansh of that anshi, but we have forgotten it. Why? Because of avidya. What a mystery. Something which is not real, we just think that's real. That is avidya. So avidya is lack of knowledge, and essentially it doesn't exist. Yet it remains the source of fear for almost everyone. Avidya is also called Maya. Sometimes we want to understand what Maya is. It's avidya. Maya word is used mainly by the Vedantic system. And avidya word is used in the yogic philosophy. Because sure, we can just, philosophies, we can talk about it. But we have to, in yoga, the guru says, you got to just not just only talk about it. We don't have to have a hair-splitting arguments about it, what the name is. We have to just learn how to get rid of it. Because it is indescribable. But Rishi Patanjali, with this very beautiful verse, from a very practical standpoint, he is describing it for us. Carelessness regarding truth is avidya. That is number 1. Not paying attention to the truth is avidya. For example, the truth is that everyone dies. Anybody who has taken a birth will die. This is the truth. Our repeated experience tells us that everyone dies. But carelessness about this truth makes us blind to it. Not paying attention to this truth makes us ignorant. And once we are in the grip of ignorance, we fail to see that one day we will die too. When reality of death pushes its way into our ignorance from time to time, we really work very hard to deny it. Every day, we see that we are aging. We are leading to this unavoidable reality, but we try to ignore it. We just want to occupy ourselves with something else. This is the birth of avidya, ignorance, not seeing the reality. Not only ourselves, we don't even see the reality in others also. Now let's take a closer look at the 4 different categories of avidya. The first category of avidya, according to Patanjali, is mistaking short-lived objects for the eternal. Something which is nitya, thinking it's anitya. Let us take the money as an example. Our repeated experiences tell us clearly that money is an illusory idea. We all know that the idea of money was invented to facilitate the exchange of goods. And this idea is accomplished by fear, insecurity, and mistrust. Even though nothing is more volatile than money, people believe they will find security and freedom from all fear in money. Most of our endeavors, if we look at it, they are geared towards finding a steady stream of revenue. But still we stay in a perpetual state of fear. We continue to place our trust in money. And what really happens, if you look at it, we lose sight of money's volatile nature if we are forced to believe it to be a source of security. And as this belief matures, money becomes a central goal of life. And our consciousness start to revolve around money all the time. Not only that, we measure the shape and size of our soul, all the fortunes, misfortunes, with the yardstick of money. As they say, money becomes our calling card, the ground for our self-identity. For this kind of a person, beyond money, nothing exists. Because everything is counted with that. And a person deluded by this distorted understanding is bound to remain caught in the cycle of birth and death. Second category of avidya, he says, is mistaking impurity for purity. All religions are in agreement about the spiritual merit of love, compassion, kindness, forgiveness. Everybody talks about it. Love all and hate none. Include all and exclude none. This is like a central theme in all religions. But in spite of this fact, we just say that, no, my religion is better than yours. We all know that killing is the greatest sin. But throughout history, people have committed themselves to the crusades, jihads, under the approving eye of religions. If that is not avidya, what is then? How can there be a greater impurity than bloodshed? And yet people find a sense of purity in killing others. This is avidya. Such acts of forms of avidya is evidenced by the fact that the consequences of such acts are painful. When you hurt somebody, kill somebody, it is painful. They breed anger and revenge, forcing us to live and die in an impure and painful environment. And third way he defined avidya for us is mistaking pain for pleasure. Let's look at it. Drugs, alcohol, gambling. We all know that drugs are a source of misery. There's a misery in obtaining them, misery in taking them, and even greater misery in quitting them. Yet people are attracted to drugs, mistaking pain for pleasure. That's avidya. The same is true for alcohol. We all know how our livers, they get damaged. We cannot think clearly. That's why we cannot drink and drive. It kills the brain cells, dulls the mind. This fact cannot be denied. And when we try to deny it, that is avidya. Because alcohol distorts our perception, strains family life, undermines work performance. In spite of this, alcohol is associated with entertainment and pleasure. This is almost like at the collective level of avidya. It has become so powerful that neither as individual nor as a society do we recognize the pain inherent in this source of pleasure. So yogis call this avidya. What about gambling? No religion has anything good to say about gambling. It is a curse to both the poor and the rich, and is widely recognized as an extremely destructive form of entertainment. Because gambling is a vivid manifestation of greed. And greed fuels the base tendency to cheat, deceive, and lie. So if you want to call this greed Rajasic, and we think it's not that bad, but it doesn't take much effort from the Rajasic to go to Tamasic. So that's why I said that cheating, deceiving, and lying, then ultimately we are at the bottom. Knowing that they are not on the right path, people addicted to gambling often begin to live double lives. And eventually, most meet an unavoidable destiny, which is loss of wealth, loss of respect, disintegration of the families, and also never-ending regret. How painful. And yet people seek happiness in gambling. This is avidya. Finally, we come to the fourth form of avidya, mistaking material entities and objects for the soul. Common sense tells us that we have a body, but we are not the body. We eat for our body, not for our soul. Even though we do not know much about our soul, we intuitively know that the body and soul are two different things. In one manner or another, people in every culture feel and believe in the continuity of the soul. As souls, the belief goes, we have come from the world of spirits, ancestors, heaven, or even some other higher realm. And it is where we go after death. The soul accompanies the body at birth, but the body has no power to accompany the soul after death. So this body, the physical body, is subject to death, decay, and destruction, just like all other objects and belongings that provide comfort, convenience, satisfaction, and pleasure to the body. Once the soul departs, everything is left behind. And we know this. Yet we continue to dream about being here forever, or at least taking the body along with the soul at the time of death. A dream which so far has never come true. This dream springs from wishful thinking that in my case, it may be possible not to die, or I might ascend with my body. Or maybe I can take some of my objects which give me comfort and pleasure right now with me. This wishful thinking and the fantasy grounded in it has caused people in different cultures to craft various forms of after-death rites, from the simple tombs to elaborate pyramids, from simple oblations of alcohol to elaborate arrangements of food, processions, servants, wives, horses, chariots. There are stories and stories all over the globe about this. Such practices existed because people believed in the continuity of the soul in the body and the soul's need for physical objects after death. That is avidya. Surprisingly, this avidya has never come to an end. In one form or the other, this avidya is here. Even today, in one form or another, we embrace this form of avidya, just like ancients did. So that's why Rishi Patanjali, in a lot of detail, explained this avidya for us, making short-lived objects for eternity, impurity for purity, suffering, thinking that we find happiness in it, and a lack of self-awareness for awareness of oneself. So we got to look into it. What kind of avidya is present in us at any given time? Only then, if we identify it, only then we can remove it. Or at least chisel it a little bit, make it a little weaker. Avidya. Next verse, Rishi Patanjali is talking about asmita. Because avidya, asmita. Next one is asmita. He says, Drig darshan shaktor ek atmataha ev asmita. Drig means the seer, perceiver, drig, purush. Darshan means the prakriti or seeing or sight. Shaktor. See, Shakti means power. Shaktor word is a dual possessive of Shakti. So it's an inherent capacity, Shakti. Ek atmataha ev. Ek means one, atmata means self, ev means like. So together this compound word means oneness of, a dissolution of one into another. Or in simpler way you can understand that giving an appearance of two being the same. So Drig and Darshan, thinking that Purush and Prakriti is one. This is Ek Atma, Atmataha Ev. Asmita, I amness, self-identity, self-image. So Asmita emerges when the perceiver's power dissolves into the power of perception. Or in other words, it's a false identity or a distorted self-image. So we should always remember this asmita is an extension of avidya. If we want to get rid of this wrong notion of self-identity, we got to work on the avidya, lower the avidya. Only then it will work. Avidya is lack of self-understanding and it leads to distorted understanding. So this lack of self-understanding takes away our basic power of reference actually. Because if we think we are the body or we are the status which somebody gave it to us, we start thinking that that's who we are. So that's why we have moved away from the reality. We have forgotten that our core being is made of consciousness. So intuitively we know that we exist, but we do not know in what sense we exist. Because we all know that intuition is an intrinsic attribute of consciousness, which keeps telling us that we are. But because both consciousness and intuitive wisdom are enveloped in the thick layers of ignorance, and because of that thickness of the ignorance, we do not know the broader context of our being. We forget who we are, where we came from, what the purpose of our life is, what is our potential as a human being, or even what the role in the world for us is. We forget it. So to discover this broader context, we are dependent on the veil of ignorance itself. And this dependency on avidya is both confusing and it becomes frightening. Because our core being is eternal and intelligent, immortality and self-illumination are its inherent attributes. So that means we have so much buried inside, but we are not identifying with that. We are identifying only with the outer layer. Even though the consciousness is constantly shining by its very nature. But avidya or ignorance is just the opposite actually. It's a darkness. Avidya depends on the light of consciousness. Consciousness which is shining inside, it does pierce through the layers of avidya. Wherever it's a little thinner layer, it does. That's why when we sit down and we do the meditation, or when we do the prayers, or when we do some seva, this layer of avidya is weakening. That light comes out because light is there. Layers of avidya are thinner in some places, thicker in others. The light shining through from inside does not illuminate evenly. And this uneven distribution of the inner light gives a unique shape, size, and color to this entity, which is made up of avidya and consciousness. And this is the birth of asmita, I amness. Or in common words, we call it ego. At this stage, our self-identity is made up of both vidya and avidya, Purush and Prakriti. And this is what Rishi Patanjali is telling us. The two are so intermingled that neither the consciousness knows that the veil illuminated by its avidya, nor avidya knows that the light illuminating it is consciousness. Each is equally confused about the other. And this confused self-awareness is called asmita. The light flickering deep inside prompts avidya, asmita, to discover consciousness, the seer within. It's almost like a call is there constantly. Know yourself. But on the other hand, avidya prompts asmita to believe that what we see is the seer. There is nothing beyond the pale of what we see. Or you can say that the line that keeps subject and object distinct has become blurred because of asmita. There is nothing to prevent avidya from casting its magic spell on the seer and the seen, subject and object, perceiver and perceived, causing them to identify with each other. Next week, we'll start from here. I have a little bit more to talk about on this subject, but pay attention to this because this asmita or the ego is a big wall. But this wall can be crumbled or at least taken down a little, inch by inch, with the help of the vidya, though, with the knowledge. So that's why the knowledge is needed to get all of this down. Okay, ignorance needs to be removed so that we know who we are. So we'll start from this verse, middle of this verse, next week. ओम पूर्णमदा पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमदाय पूर्णमेव विशेष्यते। ओम शांति 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 ओम। Thank you very much for joining.